Namaste. Welcome to this heart-opening somatic yoga practice.
You may be in a pose already that you're comfortable to rest in to begin. If you want to come into fish pose, you can do so with a bolster or your 2 blocks. So just an option to start a heart opener today, depending on how you're feeling around the shoulders and chest. If you're using a bolster, you'll just bring the rectangular bolster vertically, wiggle your spine up, lay back, let the arms come out. And then you'd have the option of just extending the legs in any comfortable way, or maybe it feels better for the back body, if this is a little intense to begin with in your body, to just start with a bent knee. And if you're just feeling like there's still not enough, you could also even add a block under your bottom just to give a little less flexion through the spine. And then eventually maybe removing the block, maybe eventually extending the legs. And that may not happen today, that's okay. I want to give you one more option, and that is to bring the feet together, letting the knees drop out to the side. So if you're looking at working at more space around the hips, things are often tight there, a good opportunity to come into the pose. And again, you can support with blocks underneath the outer knees or thighs if it's just a little too intense to really relax the body. So when we're coming into a resting pose, any pose really, but knowing we're going to be holding this one a little bit longer, we want to invest the time in getting comfortable, and we don't have to stay in a position, because as the body relaxes, we may feel the need to adjust a little more. Just observing as the other areas or some of the other areas of your body continue or slowly catch up in relaxing, softening, and arriving. Noticing the areas of the body where there's a little more resistance and letting go. And it might be once you bring your mind awareness to a specific area or areas of the body, almost like you're giving yourself emotional or mental permission to soften those areas. Just becoming the seer and relaxing. I invite you to draw a little bit more attention and awareness to the breath. And rather than trying to stop anything from arising in your mind, just being with it, to continue to observe not only the breath, but other sensations, thoughts, emotions, visualizations that might appear. And if you want to practice a little more spaciousness in your mind, once you've allowed your awareness to gently float from whatever arises in each moment, you can just very gently guide your awareness back to your breath. And on the next couple of rounds of breath, let's practice allowing the belly in that lower abdominal area, mid-abdominal area, to be as still as possible as we focus our inhales, expanding, of course, the lungs, the rib cage. Exhales, just contracting. So trying to pinpoint that inhalation and exhalation action just of the chest and even the rib cage. Less movement of the abdomen. And now we're going to do the opposite after your next exhale. Begin to focus on that abdominal area expanding as you inhale and contract or softening as you exhale. And again, not just at the front or top of the body, but that whole section of the body expanding and contracting. And just seeing if you can keep the chest a little stiller. It might not be completely still. Our bodies are never really completely still. Good. And then the last part of this pranayama is to, after your next exhale, see if you can feel the chest and abdominal region expand and contract with breath. Maybe there's a bit of a rhythm or a pattern where first the ribs fill and then the abdomen, or maybe it just feels like everything fills at the same time. And we know our abdomen's not filling with breath. It doesn't happen. Our breath is moving in and out of the lungs. However, via activation of the diaphragm, we'll feel that sensation of expansion and contraction of the abdomen as well. Now just letting go of all control of the breath. And if the legs have been wide, I invite you to slowly draw them in. Turn the toes in, adjust the low back if it feels good too, and just allow the knees to drop in towards one another. And then come back to witnessing your breath in its organic state, resisting the urge to change anything, and just observe. Just notice any differences in the breath now, maybe in comparison to when we first started bringing awareness to the breath before our pranayama. Good. After an exhale, no matter what position you're in, if you like, you can either float the arms up towards the sky, you can let them drop overhead, or if you've had a nice opening across the chest, maybe just wrapping the arms around the chest. Making any adjustments to tuck the chin if the neck feels compressed. So we've made these slight changes in position in our bodies. And just still aware of that ebb and flow of breath. Maybe you can give yourself permission to soften the eyes if they're open. Just giving yourself this gift of time for the next probably 50 or 45 minutes we have remaining. With inhale, send the arms back up towards the sky. If you are wrapping them around the chest for that counter pose, we'll bring the opposite arm beneath and re-wrap. Fingers towards opposite shoulders, but just relax those shoulder blades heavy to rest on your mat or your bolster. Good. And again, inhale, float the arms up. Exhale, allow them to float back down to the sides. Good. Now let's bring the knees apart with the bent in the knees. Again, even if your spine's not on the bolster, maybe your feet are placed on the bolster if there was one under the knees. Let's just rock the knees from side to side, maybe just gradually allowing them to fall a little heavier. Maybe they won't fall heavier with the props that you're using. There's only so much range of motion. It doesn't matter. Exploring movement in our own bodies from the position that we're in now. Starting to work out any tension through the low back. Once you bring the knees back up with the feet planted, we'll send the hips slightly to one side. Maybe we roll to rest on our props in some way, or maybe we slide them out, but we're just transitioning slowly to come onto one side of the body. Maybe we're using that lower arm as a pillow. Again, you might stay closed or reclose through the eyes. Just find a comfortable position to take a few rounds of breath. And just observe any sensation you feel on your skin, including the temperature of the space that you're in, the feeling of your clothing. Notice any sensation beneath the surface of your skin from a more energetic perspective. Just noticing sensations as they arise. Good, and then nice and slow, you might use the upper hand to press into the mat. We're gonna slowly just transition to an upright seated position. Maybe setting your props off to the side, maybe just coming into a cross-legged position, grounding through your sitting bones, pulling the fleshy bits back and away, maybe rocking a little from side to side. And then pull that low belly in to sit up nice and tall, rolling the shoulders down and back, maybe adding a little wiggle. Good, finding your breath, relaxing the low body and feeling the opposing force of the gentle lift and energy up through the spine, traveling up through the crown of your head and gently pulling you upward. Good, eyes can be open or closed. We're going to start with our Sufi grinds. So we're going to take a nice big breath in. As we exhale, we're going to lean the chest towards one knee and then glide over to the other side. You can use the hands to hook at the knees to support you, kind of round the spine like cat pose. You can start to get the shoulders involved, really exaggerating. So thinking about just bringing in a lot of space into different areas of the body, maybe exaggerating the movement as much as you can in a way that feels good. And moving with breath. And just feel your bottom rock. Maybe the knees kind of lift. Maybe the right knee lifts as you shift your weight back on an angle towards the left edge of the mat. Just noticing what's happening. And maybe it feels good to close the eyes or maybe it doesn't. So if not, just keep a nice gentle gaze open. When it feels right in coordination with your breath, we're going to reverse direction. So same thing, it might take a few cycles of breath to really start to feel a little more liberated, to let go of the ego and noticing all sensations of the movement that we're bringing into our bodies. What does it bring in? Where are we feeling comfort? Where are we feeling discomfort? Where are we feeling space? Where are we feeling resistance? Good, let's roll one more time. And then hook those hands to the knees and round the spine. Keep the elbows soft, tuck the chin so if the eyes were open, you'd be looking or gazing at your navel. Drop the shoulders away from the ears. Again, take a little softness into the elbows. Take a couple long, slow, deep breaths. And again, maybe with the eyes closed, you can gradually work your way up to a seated upright position. Maybe staying closed through the eyes and come back to witness again, to observe sensations you feel on your skin. As we bring stillness into the body, just again, starting to notice sensations you feel. So we're training ourselves to spend a little time with ourselves just to observe. Each time we add a little bit of flow or movement in our bodies and training our muscles that sometimes as a result of trauma or unresolved emotional grief, we hold in our tissues. So we're retraining those tissues to relax, that they don't break down, so we have a better quality of life from a physical and emotional perspective. Good. If the eyes are closed, maybe you flutter them open. We're going to start to lean back into the hands. We're going to uncross the legs to cross them in the opposite way. And then just tend through the fingers to come up to more of a tall spine, even though we're kind of leaning back on a slant. Pull that low belly in. Start to come down onto the palms, but tent those fingers so the fingertips are gently clawing into the mat. Roll your shoulders back, but don't puff the ribs forwards. We're pulling the low belly in to protect the back, and you might adjust the hands just depending on how the wrists feel. Option to exhale, and then inhale, lift the hips. Maybe the head comes up, maybe the head drops back. And as we exhale, we're going to lower. So we're just going to start to flow. If you want to hold, you're welcome to. We will eventually hold before we come out of the pose. So try to keep lots of space between the ears and the shoulders. Keep the low belly pulled in. We're not coming into a cow pose. We're not flexing through the back body. By pulling that low belly in, we're keeping more of a neutral spine, although we might feel more of an opening through the upper chest. And just again, nice and slow and rhythmic with your breath. So slow your breath down and then the movement will follow. We're going to flow just a couple more times and then we're going to hold staying lifted if it feels okay. You're always welcome to continue to flow. So as you're ready, the next time you lift the hips, maybe you're just lifting the gaze, maybe you're dropping the head back, opening up through the throat. And if that's the case, maybe parting through the lips, taking some breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Take one more inhale. Exhale, very slowly drop through your bottom. And pause, just tucking the chin to the chest, maybe cave a little into the chest. Take a couple breaths. Just notice the heart rate. Notice if you feel a little more energized through around the chest or the entire front area of the body, as it often happens in our heart opening poses. And then nice and slow, walk the hands up and readjust your bottom to root back down and feel equally grounded through both sitting bones. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle through those ribs to sit up tall. And let's just take a moment to lift the hands away from the knees and roll out through the wrists now. Maybe give them a little shake out if it feels okay. They might be too tender for that, so just be honor where you're at. Good. And then we're going to make our way over onto the hands and the knees. internally rotate the arms, bringing the inner forearms together or towards one another, and then pull the low belly gently in just to bring the bottom rib and the pelvis slightly towards one another. So neutral spine, big breath in. Exhale, pull the navel to spine as we really spread through the ribs at the back of the body, the vertebrae, the back body lifting towards the sky as the head drops. And then as we inhale, the elbows stay soft. So keeping that softness to the elbows as we lower the belly towards the earth and gently lift the tail and chin. And starting to roll through, not just cat-cow, but extension and flexion of the spine. As we drop the belly, each vertebrae coming in towards one another, each rib coming closer together on the back body. As we exhale, more space in between those areas. Maybe you get a bit of a flow. Maybe the hips start to sink back. Maybe you kind of rock forward with the chest just before the chin lifts. So again, just getting into a rhythm. We're also really getting comfortable in our own bodies if that's something we've kind of disconnected with, which again, trauma, unresolved emotion. Let's end on an exhale, that rounding of the spine, dropping the head heavy, give a little wiggle or nod through the head and neck. And then let the head just hang as we take a breath in. And as we exhale, coming back to a neutral spine. Now we're gonna walk the knees back. So we're moving into a modified plank pose. And if the wrists are getting tired, you can use your blocks under the hands, wrapping your thumb and pinky fingers around the block. So that'll take some pressure off the wrists, or you can take fists into the hands as well. Let's just engage the core and start to let the hips sink down, lifting the chest away. Feel the space between the shoulders active, but the elbows still soft and the belly button still pulling gently back and up. Find your breath. So now as we prepare to come down from higher plank to low, we turn those elbow creases to the top of the mat, not forcefully. So that way, when we start to lower down, let's take a big breath in. As we exhale, if the elbows can draw back, we can feel the inner arms graze the rib cage as we lower down. That's the action we want, but we may not have it, and that's okay. Now slide the palms back, maybe tense a little through the fingertips, press into the tops of the feet, keep the chin tucked so the crown's reaching beyond the top edge of the mat. Let the belly be soft, let the glutes be soft, let the legs be relaxed just for a moment. And now I want you to engage the core, engage through the legs. So we're really reaching down through the toes and pressing into the tops of the feet, and try to soften the glutes. There can be some engagement, but not forcefully. If you're feeling strain in the neck, tuck the chin, and we're gonna flow with our breath. So keep that core engaged and that activeness through the legs, but really light through the palms. You could even challenge yourself to lift the palms away. After your exhale, core engaged, we're gonna inhale to lift the chest. You should be able to lift the hands and not lower down. So we're using more the back body with support of the core. We're gonna exhale, lower down, and start to get into a flow. Inhale, core is engaged, we lift. Exhale, we're using that core engagement to slowly lower down. So we're not just relying on the back body. We'll still build the strength of the back body, which is important, but we need the support of the core being engaged to protect the back so we don't pull anything or strain. So just continue to move with breath for a few more cycles. Really focusing on that less is more and fine tuning the movement so you have control the entire time. Good, one last time. We're gonna lift, we're gonna lower, We're going to release the hands, bring the palms to stack over the head or under the head, maybe turning the head to the side, or maybe resting the bridge of the nose and the brow down. Now relax the legs. Maybe you bring the big toes together and let the heels just drop away from one another. I invite you to just use the gentle press of the tops of the feet into the mat to get a little wiggle of the hips rocking from side to side. And just notice if that brings some relief into the low back area. Soften down through your eyes. Gradually stop the rocking. And again, just observe. After an exhale, we're going to lift the brow. We're going to slide the palms under the shoulders. We're going to lift the chest, lift the hips, walk the knees underneath the hips. We'll curl through the toes, take a big breath in. Exhale, downward facing dog. So you can stay in table if down dog's not in your practice. Just start fine tuning your down dog if you're in it, softening the knees, exaggerate the bend in the knees, and then feel the shoulders spread away from one another as the head comes a little closer to the earth. Notice how you really grip down through the base of the palm towards the wrist, and then the knuckles of the hands kind of lift, but we reconnect the fingertips. That's the kind of action we want in our table as well. Let's begin to pedal out through the knees, just gently rocking from side to side. And again, really exaggerate that movement. As you bend the right knee, can you really push back through the left hip? What happens through the shoulders and the chest as you draw the hip back? Where do you feel space opening up through the side of the body, or do you as you shift from side to side? And can you do this really relaxing tension through the neck? Maybe as you bend the right knee and lean that hip back and maybe slightly to the left, the head kind of falls, the chin turns underneath that left arm and vice versa. And just really paying attention to how movement changes things. And then land in your downward dog. You can always drop to the knees to rest. Just take a few rounds of breath in stillness. Again, exaggerate the bend in the knees. Feel your tail lift higher as you do so, rather than sinking back. Those shoulders still broad, and notice the muscles starting to really fire up. Notice that sensation of the abdomen pulling back towards the spine. And again, that's kind of the action you want to take when you're intentionally engaging the core. Notice when the mind starts to get frustrated or tired, your body starts to get tired, what kind of thoughts arise? You have a tendency to push yourself further than you actually want to go. Or do you listen to your body when it's time to come out? Let's take a few more rounds of breath. If you're still here, of course, you always have the option of coming out sooner. And then nice and slow. As we shift the shoulders more over the wrist, then we have the opportunity to gently release one knee down and then the other. Good, let's bring the knees wide, big toes together and come into a child's pose now. Release the arms. Maybe you feel the need or want to roll out through those wrists once again, a few times in each direction. Maybe you want to wiggle from side to side through the hips and the torso. Maybe that helps to bring the abdomen and the ribs deeper towards the earth between the thighs. And maybe we use the fingertips overhead just to gently press down and then away from the crown to give ourselves a little assist. Notice how maybe the tail curves a little more under. And just take 2 more rounds of breath here. So when you're ready in your own time, just be lifting the head, supporting with the arms and hands. We'll walk the hands back towards the body to come upright, and we'll take a moment to pause before more movement to grab a sip of water, hydrate. We're going to make our way back onto the belly. So bringing those hands down, walk the knees back to table, gradually walk them back to your plank, and maybe practice turning the inner elbows forward, but not hyperlocking them, hyperextending them, slowly lowering down. We're going to lift the chest and bring the elbows under the shoulders now to move into Sphinx pose. So we're going to asking the body for a little more flexion here. So if you're feeling that's a little tender in the back, first of all, make sure the core is engaged, but you can always walk the elbows more forward. But if available, elbows stay under the shoulders, and we use that gentle resistance to press those forearms into the mat. And we're going to focus on the shoulders here. So again, re-engage the core. Experiment with where you want the legs to be, straight down, toes pointing towards the bottom edge from the hips, or maybe the toes turn out now, the heels drop in. Again, wherever you are, engage the core, press the forearms into the mat to lift, but notice if you lift the chin, you're really compressing through the vertebrae or cervical spine of the neck. So just add a little tuck of the chin and try to soften the glutes. Maybe you need a little engagement there to protect your back, but hopefully you're getting that as well from the core. So just finding your expression of Sphinx pose, maybe starting to soften the eyes, finding your breath, and focusing on the heart space here, not just at the front of the body, but through the back of the body as well. Noticing what arises as you bring awareness to your heart. Good, and we're gonna start to add a little bit of shoulder movement. So I invite you to take a nice big breath in. And as we exhale, we're gonna roll the shoulders forward. As we inhale, we're gonna roll the shoulders back and lift a little further away from the mat. So exhale, maybe we tuck the chin and lift the back body, lift the ribs. As we inhale, we're letting the upper abdomen and ribs drop as we lift the chin and open the shoulders at the front of the body. So there's just kind of a little bit of a wave action, but making sure when you inhale and lift, you're not lifting the chin too forcefully or too high. Maybe you kind of keep the chin dropped because that feels better for the neck. Notice where you start to feel more sensation, if you do, or less. And of course, take breaks as needed. We're just going to flow a few more times. Good. One last time. Let's pause in that Sphinx pose. Let there be lots of space between ears and shoulders. Notice where you feel discomfort, where you feel more or less sensation. This could be just getting into some of that stagnant energy, unresolved issues in our tissues. Good. And then let's come back into that reverse Shavasana. This time, if you're bringing a side of the head to the mat, bring the opposite side that you did the first time. Just relaxing the space between the shoulders. Just slow the breath down. And again, I invite you, if you want, just to wiggle through the hips from side to side, helping to release tension through the back after we working on a lot of heart opening today. You can bring up some emotions, or again, just stagnant energy. helping to neutralize the spine after the flexion with that little wiggle. Good. If the head's turned, we're going to bring it back to center. We're going to bring the right palm to the mat and kind of push into the palm. So we're lifting and opening the chest to the wide right edge, of the mat. Now we're going to take that left arm, thread it under the right with the palm up. Take a bend in the right knee. So we're starting to stack the right hip over the left, and then we'll bring the right palm to meet the left. Okay, so you can kind of shift onto the left side of the body here. And then on our next inhale, we're going to float the right arm up. Pull the left arm gently out so the back of the head can connect to the mat if possible, or you can use something to support under the head. And then experiment with allowing that right arm to come all the way behind you. Now the right leg will lift away, that's okay. You could take the left hand and just place it on the right knee, not to force, but just to help weigh it down so it doesn't bounce up. And ideally we want to try to get the shoulders grounded, but again, we don't want to force it. So as long as there's not a lot of tension and you can relax your body here, maybe there's a little space under the right shoulder. And as we pause, start to extend our exhalations and give ourselves permission to just be here for a few moments. You might start to notice the gap closing in. Again, you might close the eyes, the chin might drop over to the right. Pay attention to any holding in the body and see if you can let it go with each exhale now. Thinking of moving very slowly, especially after the longer holds, okay? Even if we feel a little eager to move out of the poses. Not suggesting you do, but some of us may. So let's just begin. If the head's really dropped over to the right, start to bring it back first. It was likely the last thing to transition. And then when it feels right, start to float the right arm from behind us up back towards the sky on our breath in. And then slowly start to float the right arm all the way back down to meet the left hand. Let's take a bend in the right elbow, pressing the right palm into the mat, slide the right leg down, come back into that preparatory pose where we're kind of in the Sphinx pose. We're going to press now into the left palm, open the chest towards that side of the mat, thread the right arm or opposite arm under if you're mirroring me, and then we'll slide the left knee to a bend or the upper leg knee to a bend. Bring the upper hand to meet the lower hand and start to shift your weight on that lower side of the body. We'll begin to feel that upper hip stack over the lower. And nice and slow when you're ready, we're going to use our inhale to float the left arm up towards the sky now, or the upper hand and arm. Pull the opposite arm gently out to try to place the back of the head down. The upper knee might be lifting. It's okay. You can bring the hand there anytime or just let it do its thing. And on your next exhale, allowing the left arm, upper arm to start to float behind you. And if it doesn't feel good to hold it there, because maybe there's lots of space, maybe you're filling the gap, maybe you're just letting gravity do its thing, or you can always modify by just placing the upper hand on the upper hip. So it's a good practice to strengthen your mind body, to be here, to spend time with yourself so that you can start to really move from a place that serves you. Again, you can place the upper hand on the upper knee just to help weigh it down if you feel like you're wanting to be pulled behind. And just paying attention to the ebb and flow of breath and how your body moves in rhythm with the breath. All the muscles of the face relax. And just preparing yourself to good. Just a couple more rounds of breath here now. Maybe we start by just bringing the head back so the gaze is more towards the sky, releasing the lower arm if it's at the knee, using our inhale to bring the arm behind towards the sky and just really slow it down. Noticing any shakiness, pausing there with the arm extended towards the sky. Maybe taking another big breath in and then using your exhale to slowly and controlled lower the upper hand down to meet the lower. And once again, we're just going to pause there so the head might kind of hang. And then gently bending the left elbow to or upper hand to place into the mat, sliding the opposite leg down. Make your way back into that reverse shavasana. We'll wiggle through the hips just to give our bodies the opportunity to neutralize, especially around the back body before counter posing. So it's important not to drastically move into a counter pose. And then we'll bring the body back to stillness. Just rest in this stillness for a couple of rounds of breath. Once again, observing sensations on the skin, sensations beneath the surface. Gently lifting the head, sliding the palms under the shoulders, lifting the chest away from the mat, pushing to the knees. Find yourself in table pose. Take a nice big breath in as we exhale now, round the spine, and just be really gentle with yourself as we move to cat pose. Same with on cow as we drop the belly and gently lift the tail and the chin. Starting to flow once again, thinking of your sacral area above the pelvis, below the navel. Creativity, sensuality, and flow. Good, let's end on an exhale, rounding the spine, staying there, but still breathing. Give the head a little wiggle, soften those elbows. And then we'll start to walk the knees towards the wrists, send the feet out to one side, and make our way onto our bottoms. To begin, we're just going to come right down onto our back bodies. So after your sip of water, whenever you're ready, just meeting down on your mat. Maybe take a mini shavasana with the arms in any comfortable position, and you might take more of a star shape or maybe those cactus arms, but lots of space between the ears and the shoulders, no matter the position of the arms. Soften your eyes, relax your jaw and your tongue. Maybe for these next couple of rounds of breath, just reflecting on how you can invite a little more slowing down, time to reflect, mind body awareness, and self awareness, self study, and ultimately growth. Good. You can stay, of course, if you just want to stay now. Otherwise, we're going to bring the legs closer in together. We're going to bend the right knee. And we're going to start to draw the right knee into the chest. We can release the arms and hands to take and wrap around the shin. And we'll just start with little movements with breath. You might activate the left leg with a gentle flex through the heel, softness to the knee, the toes pointing up, or even gently drawing back towards the body. As we squeeze the right thigh in towards the abdomen, helping to press the breath out on the exhales, and then releasing that grip gently. The arms extending a little more as the body expands with breath. You could just stay like this. You could release the left hand to the left hip bone, just peeling the right knee and hip open. For another external rotation of the right ball and socket hip joint. The next option is to start to flex the right sole of the foot towards the sky, binding for a half happy baby. So with the left leg extended, we'll feel that anchorage and stability of the left side of the body. So as we draw the right knee to a bend and let the thigh fall to the floor, towards the floor that is, uh, beside the right side of the rib cage, we're anchored down through the left side. So we're not allowing our body to roll to the right. Our shoulders are anchored. Our neck is long. Again, all the muscles that we don't need to be activated are relaxed. Or we're practicing relaxing those areas as maybe they're in the habit of being tense and contracted. Slowing your breath and really focusing on relaxing the left thigh, quad. Good. Take one more big round of breath in and out. We'll slowly release our bind with the right foot and we'll bring the knee back in towards the chest. We'll give it another little squeeze when it feels right. And then we'll keep the left hand at the right knee. The right arm can lay long out to the right side to weigh that right shoulder down as we exhale. Let the head turn to the right as we cross the left leg, right leg to the left. And again, ideally, we're allowing the right hip to draw over and stack over the left. And that may take time as we create more space and mobility through our spine. For now, we'll just settle where our body will take us today without force. We'll find that resiliency in our breath and the movement the breath brings in and out. After an exhale, slowly bring the head back to center, roll our back body onto the mat. Squeeze that right knee in one last time and release the right foot down. We'll lay the right leg long, adding a little flexion through the heel, soft knee, and start to draw the left knee to a bend, using the left foot to press into the mat to adjust our back body if needed. And then we'll cup the hands around the left shin and start with those little squeezes on our exhales and gentle releases on our inhales. Keeping things flowing, creating space through the left hip and low back and pelvis area. It's a science behind every pose and every movement, and a myriad of benefits physically, emotionally, physiologically. Maybe flexing the left foot towards the sky, maybe taking a bind to come into that half happy baby. It might be helpful to bring the right hand to the right hip just to help stay anchored and stable through the right side of the body now. Really focusing on relaxing the left thigh, quad. Do you have a tendency of squeezing in that area? Can you relax? Maybe fill up this next inhale a little fuller. And we'll gradually release our bind to squeeze the knee back to the chest as we exhale. And then keep the right hand at the left knee, lay the left arm long beside us to help ground the left shoulder. And as we exhale, we'll cross the left leg over to the right, maybe stacking the left hip over the right. Maybe allow the head to turn to the left now. Maybe weighing the left knee down with the right hand and arm. Trying to relax any areas of the body that don't need to be contracted or tense. Fully relaxing the lower leg. Feeling your body receive and release the breath. Good. After your next exhale, allowing the head to come back first, rolling the left side of the body back, squeezing the left knee in one last time. Maybe we start by placing the left foot, bringing the right knee to a bend and meet the left, adjusting ourselves back to center. And if there's any other movement you feel your body needs before asking it to stay a little stiller, just welcome it in. Maybe it's a rock of the knees, maybe it's a squeeze of the knees in, or maybe it's a lengthening stretch, sending the arms up, setting the heels or toes down, or both. And then relaxing your body, taking up some space, allowing the adjustment of a little tuck of the chin for length through all surfaces of the neck to be spacious. Softening through the jaw, feel the hinges unhinge. Feel the tongue, feel the lower palate of the mouth, just resting heavy down, still. Relaxing all the muscles of your eyes. Maybe the eyes are active. Maybe you can settle on them resting. with a gentle gaze towards the space between the brow. So the eyelids might be closed, the eyeballs just gently rolling up towards that ajna, or third eye chakra, where we house our intuition and that innate sense of knowing. Feel your whole body relax now. Whole body. Just aware of your entire body. You are a perfect balance of yin and yang. I trudged to the top of the mesa in Sedona. A woman I'd met had told me what to look for. And there it was, a rock formation, a naturally formed statue. On the left side, the formation looked like a woman, an Egyptian goddess with necklace and breasts. On the right, it had taken the shape of a male. I found it immediately. A statue with two sides, two faces, one male, one female. For many years, I denied the feminine part of God, of the universe, of myself. I thought my strength and my power had to come from other parts, other sides. I resented my femininity, raged about it, because I thought being feminine meant being helpless and powerless. But I've learned something along the way. There is power in the feminine and power in the masculine. Both parts are in us. Both parts are valuable. Our strength, courage, protectiveness, and the ability to decide, organize, plan, order, and choose reflect masculine energy. Our creativity, sensitivity, emotions, vulnerability, intuition, and instincts for nurturing and caregiving are the wisdom of the feminine side. Honor and respect the masculine and feminine energy, the yin and the yang in yourself, the universe, the people around you. Both parts are important. Both can be trusted. Learn to let them work together in harmony. Climb to the top of the mountain. Look around. See the perfect balance of masculine and feminine, and let that balance come alive in you. Either staying a little longer, coming out in your own time, in your own way, or beginning to bring little movements back into your body. And just taking a few rounds of breath to welcome in those movements, intuitively listening, moving in a way that serves you. Gradually making your way over to a fetal position on one side or the other and taking at least one full round of breath. And then gently pressing your way up to meet back in Sukhasana, simple seated, cross-legged pose. When you're ready, just gently rising up. Feeling your root grounded towards the earth's center. And the crown gently rising up towards the heavens. Maybe bringing the hands together at the heart, taking one more big breath in. Releasing any lingering tension. The light within me sees and honors the light within each of you. Namaste.
Thank you so much for joining me here today. Please like and subscribe for more content.